Pasillo and Joe Resinello.
So as Joe and I always say, the left is teeing it up. Today's no exception. Everywhere.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach Sunday night, 8 o'clock, Facebook, YouTube, and a whole bunch of other things live. And we thank you once again for joining us. We thank you, as always, for your generosity, helping Joe and I out with our GoFundMe campaign. We have an ongoing GoFundMe campaign, so that's at Support the Frontline with Joe and Joe on GoFundMe. Please, if you're following us on Facebook, like this video, share it with your friends, share all our videos, as a matter of fact, if you like, and on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell so you're notified. About everything that we got going on YouTube. So we have a great show for you tonight. We have a lot of things that we're going to go over, and things that we feel like that have been in the news, but we want to talk about anyway. We want to give you the front line with Joe and Joe, take on these things. First of all, we're going to start with the debate, okay? And I don't care. I really don't care. Joe doesn't care what what other people, let's say an individual person, cares about the debate. Just like they shouldn't care what I think about the debate. Everybody knows I'm going to say that Trump won. You know what I mean? It's like at the end of a boxing match, all right? And neither boxer's been knocked out. You say, my guy won. My guy won. All right? But there are some measurements to see what, in a broader sense, the American people seem to think about that. And you want to know what? That you want to listen to. And we're going to break that down too, because we have one of Joe Resinello's favorite segments, metrics that matter. Okay? And metrics do matter. And also, we want to talk about Keith Olbermann is at it again. The guy, I mean, look, the right wing, we love our bomb throwers. You know, in the past it was Ann Coulter and others. You know what I mean? They try, you know, they try to drop bombs on people, like, let's say, rhetorically. Keith Olbermann is that guy, but he is particularly vicious. Okay. And we might be having a little sound issue right now. Let me check it out. And
how's it sound? How's it sound on my end?
Yeah, it says the audio is rough. So just back that up a little bit, Joe. So we'll get this going. Okay, so yeah, so we're working with all that beautiful new equipment that you guys
sent. Yeah, you guys helped us with that.
Yeah, you helped us with that. So we're just getting a little bit of a feel for it. Yeah, so we got Keith Olbermann. The guy is a disaster. Okay, and the guy needs to be called out. That's the bottom line. And Don Lemon. Okay, and this is going to tie into one of the major themes of tonight's conversation, which is taxes. Don Lemon saying that if you don't want to pay high taxes, if you're a wealthy person, you're selfish. You know who had something to say about that? 50 Cent had something to say about that. I think he said something like,
20 cents.
You're going to call me 20 Cent if Joe Biden gets elected. And that's an important conversation to have, because that is a popular argument from the left, is that if you're not willing to pay the government X amount of dollars of your income in taxes, that makes you a selfish, uncaring person. That's what they've always said about conservatives in our lifetimes. Okay, has always been that that basically, if you're not willing to pay through the nose and give the government more power, well, that's a problem. So anyway, and let us know if the sound gets a little bit better. I'm just fooling around with some little things here. But anyway, so let's get into it. Joe Resinello, where are we starting?
We're going to start with the debate. And I think the most important takeaway of the debate, if you ask me, and a lot of political pundits felt this way as well, was Trump got Biden to say he wants to end the oil industry. Now, there's a lot of ramifications that one could basically draw from that. One thing is you just lost all of Western Pennsylvania. Some people say he already had Western Pennsylvania. Well, maybe not, because Pittsburgh is a metropolitan city, and whether you work in the fracking industry, the coal industry, or not, you're going to be affected by basically turning off the switch on the oil industry. So if you ask me, he lost the Pittsburgh metropolitan area based on that statement. But also, this affects middle-class people. Do you realize that because Trump has made us energy basically dependent, gas has been pretty cheap? If this is the case, you do realize at the minimum, gas is going to go up probably $1 a gallon. A lot of people drive big vehicles in this country. I drive a Toyota Echo, but I also have a minivan. But I don't drive to work because I work in New York, and now I'm working in my basement like Uncle Fester. But at the same time, this is going to affect the average person because gas is going to go up. You don't just transition from a gas-driven society. Gas affects food delivery. All the trucks that drive, basically all our goods across the United States. It affects everything. That means food goes up. So I hope this sinks in. Sadly, a lot of people who are going to vote for Donald Trump will then complain when their gas bill a month for their vehicles goes up to, say, $500-$600. And they'll say, and then they're just going to say, oh my gosh, well, this is why. You don't just transition away from oil. And the thing I found interesting, Trump picked up on it immediately. He said, that's a big statement, Joe. Because it is a big statement. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. This is one of the things that people, when they hear it, they think, oh, that sounds so good. The government's going to bring in more money so it could do so many more wonderful things out there. In the meantime, as Joe just broke it down, when you translate, let's say, what is it, $1 a gallon or something along those lines, that means everything's going up. Everything, our economy runs on fossil fuel, which we'll get into that from the debate too, about what, Biden lying. Did I say Biden lying? Biden lying about that, is that everything runs on fossil fuel. Everything runs on the, hang on, guys. We're very sorry. So,
how's that, John? How's that, John? How's it sound? That's our producer. He's saying our sound is kind of screwed up. How are we coming across? Well, just keep it moving.
Yeah, we'll just keep it moving. So, yeah, everything goes up across the board, particularly food products, because food has to be delivered by trucks, and trucks get fueled, by gas, diesel fuel, and it's all going to affect us. And Biden just gets up there and says, like Obama, like it's a very telling thing. Barack Obama went back in 2008 after the financial crisis, in a debate, he said to John McCain. John McCain turned around and said, well, we should have a gas tax holiday. But, Obama went just like this. He went, oh, let's not get hasty. You know what I mean? See, the government never wants to give up their money. They're just in the business of taking. So that's very telling. And Biden's the same way. It's Biden. It's Barack Biden. That's what you're getting if we elect Joe Biden. You're getting the third term and a third term on steroids of Barack Obama. And the gas tax is just one part of that. What else was...
Well, basically, Trump's prison reform accomplishments strongly resonated against Biden's early 90 comments when he called African Americans derogatory names. He particularly called, in one instance, you can Google it, it's on YouTube, he called in his prison reform statements, he called African Americans super predators. As well as his lack of accomplishments as a VP with regard to prison reform. This is something that, to be honest with you, nowadays when politicians stone cold lie, because Trump did bring this up and he's like, that never happened. People have the internet. You could search anything. This is not like 40 years ago when you had to go to libraries and pull up like old periodicals or basically pull up microfiche, You had to be like almost like a librarian scientist to find things. This is not the case anymore. You just Google it in 1 second. You basically could see or hear everything that this person said. And another thing which I think Trump did very, very well, he was basically saying to him is, you've been doing this for 47 years. He basically made Biden eat his record. He kept saying, you had 8 years, Joe, and you didn't do it. It's the career politician versus the, the outsider. And frankly, I think that's something the American people love, that image. Mm-hmm. I do.
Right. No, exactly. And that's... that's why, and Trump hammered home on this in the debate. What else was going on there?
Well, basically, I think there was the he appealed to the African-American voters in a very strong way. Keep this in mind, okay? I know that they keep saying that Donald Trump is a racist, but please keep this in mind. Donald Trump had the lowest black unemployment of all time. There was a 400% increase in black small business ownership. The criminal justice reform that he passed, the First Step Act, the $500 billion for opportunity zones in black communities, and the funding of black colleges. It's very hard to say that Donald Trump didn't do for the African-American community. And frankly, I think they know it. Here's a metric that matters. We talked about metrics that matter. This is important. Sometimes you have to look underneath the surface. You don't just look at the polls. This is a metric that matters. The day after the election, the 23rd of October, Trump had a 46% approval rate amongst African American voters in America.
That's why I said in the beginning. I said that don't go by what we say. I could say all day long Trump won the debate. Joe could say that, big deal. Somebody else can turn around and say Biden won the debate. Whatever. That matters. Black Americans surging to 46%. Okay, support. Now let's say, for argument's sake, that's curtailed a bit by election day. What if it's 30%? What if it's half that? Half that is disastrous for the Democrats. 23% support, like actual, not just verbal support, but actual voting for President Trump. 23% amongst African Americans is a disaster for the Democrats. Because let's face it, where are all those African American votes coming from? They're coming from the major cities, okay? Particularly in swing states like Michigan, like Pennsylvania. So if Philadelphia ends up going, or gets a significant amount of African Americans voting for Donald Trump, Biden's toast in Pennsylvania. Same thing in Michigan if you're talking about Detroit. It's a huge number.
Well, that's something they never accounted for. You see, they're accounting for that typical 8%, which usually the Republicans will get, give or take. If they get over 20% African American vote in America, it's over.
Right. I think
that's over.
I think George Bush in his when he ran for re-election, he got Frank Rizzo says MAGA. MAGA. That's right, Frank. When he ran for re-election, I think Bush got 15 or 16%, and he won. Okay, it was tight. It was a tight race, but he won with 15, 16%. Can you imagine if Trump gets 23, 24, 25% of the African American vote? Again, you're talking about a disaster for the Democrats. Because if you want to talk about woke, everybody's woke in our culture. Corporations are woke. Everybody's woke. You're all supposed to be woke, every one of us, right? Well, African Americans are waking up, okay, from all the indoctrination that they've been sold over the last 50, 60, 70 years. Okay, they realize that they've been used by the left. This is a very large group of people, African Americans, 13% of the population or so, I believe, okay, sure, that has been used by the left for political power. They're waking up, but they're waking up in a positive way. They're woke in a positive way. Joe's got a stat. You were talking to me before the show. Listen to this, because this is another very telling thing. Because remember one thing, I don't know if it came up in the debate. I didn't watch the whole debate. Quite frankly, Biden makes me want to, well, anyway. But I don't know if education came up. That's we say on the show all the time, that's one of the biggest things to look at as far as how the Democrats have enslaved African Americans in the education system in the inner cities. Listen to what Joe's got to say. And this is according,
again, metrics that matter. Sometimes you have to look, again, outside of the polls. this is Rasmussen, okay? This is what they said. Between 51% and 62% of black voters support state funding of charter schools and as an alternative to traditional local district managed public schools. That support for black voters is 58% to 67% in 5 battleground states. You see, if that translates, and it should, because if you're a black family, say you're a poor black family, and you're in Detroit, or you're in Philadelphia, or you're in Milwaukee, and basically you want your kid actually, you have a kid that wants to learn. A lot of these inner city schools have a 30% graduation rate. I know Newark does. Newark, New Jersey graduates 3 out of 10 kids. That's the last stat that I saw. So, and a lot of the classrooms are 40 kids to 1 teacher. So basically, it costs too much money. It costs like sometimes over $25,000 per student. They don't get success. And at the end of the day, if you're a parent that wants your kid to graduate, you're all for charter schools. And if this translates, if that's your driver to vote, because Trump is all about charter schools and he's all about vouchers, I'll be honest with you, Biden's toast. You see, that's something they didn't account for. And in many cases, one could say they took it for granted. And you see that with the way that the Biden campaign treated Ice Cube, who was basically trying to get a message out, and they brushed him off.
Right, here's a guy, listen, Ice Cube was obviously no conservative, okay, or let's say, well, I shouldn't say that, but he may be conservative in some ways. He's no Republican.
By no
means, okay, but he offered a contract with Black America, okay, he took a page out of Newt Gingrich's playbook with the contract with America. He offered a contract with Black America. And because he is who he is, Joe and I can't call up the White House. We hope to have that influence someday. They're not taking our call. All right. We might be able to get a staffer on the phone who's going to say, "Yeah, Trump's too busy." Ice Cube, however, can get through to the White House because he is popular in the culture. Okay, and they listened to what he said pre-election. They're implementing some of his ideas in the contract with Black America, in the racist Donald Trump's in his policy proposals. What, as Joe said, did the Democrats tell Mr. Cube? They told him kick rocks till after the election, which means vote for us, and then after the election we'll say, "Oh, those are great ideas. We'll talk about it later." See, Cube is woke to this stuff. Okay. In other words, there are many others that are woke to this stuff. They're trying to say they're looking at things objectively. The biggest example I could give you is Jim Brown. Early on, Jim Brown, who was always on the political left. A lot of people would consider him to be a little bit radical. Okay, for Jim Brown to support Donald Trump from the beginning, all right, really said, "Look, this guy's got some ideas that are going to help the African American community in a non-ideological way." Remember, black liberal establishment, they're ideologues. They want things the way they want things for power and money, their own power and money. And they're in cahoots with white liberals who also are only interested in their own power and money. When you get a Jim Brown, when you get an Ice Cube, when you get a 50 Cent, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, when you get a Kanye who says, hold it, we think we're being taken advantage of here, and we got something to say about it. Well, it's the racist orange man that's actually listening to them. And it's the left that's doing to them what they've always done. We'll get back to you later. We know you got some concerns. They'll pretend to care about it. Then after the election, they'll just say, "You know what, we really can't do anything about it because there's too much racism in this country." And that's what they'll do, and they just won't do anything about it. And one more time, African Americans are waking up to this idea. They have been, but in a Trump 4 years that we've just gone through, it's even more so.
2 more comments I want to make about the debate. Trump was measured, precise, and convincing. You didn't have the food fight that you basically had from the first debate. He kept his cool, he made his points. And this is the last point I want to make, and I think it's a very important one. Biden cited 50 national security officers claiming that the laptop information is Russian disinformation. Obviously, I'm talking about the laptop pertaining to his son and the financial scandal that's going on. Now for the facts. The FBI and the DNI declared that there is no such evidence, and it is not to believe that this is not Russian disinformation. That was a lie. Again, all you have to do is look it up. He thinks people either are stupid or that they don't have computers, because all you have to do is look it up. Also, no one believes this, Joe. Biden, that is. No one believes it. Trump laid it out, and the media look all the more corrupt in the eyes of the American people because they are censoring it. Facebook and Twitter still is not allowing the New York Post to put that up.
And that's been about a week and a half now.
So that's the first question. I was listening to the news to say, Jim Jordan, when they get, Zuckerberg into the Senate, he's going to say, why is it still not up? Why is it still censored? What's your mindset? You know, they put up all over the news saying Trump paid $750 in taxes,
which is a lie. It's a lie.
Yet, this is something that at least should be brought to the American people, and they refuse to do it because they're in the bag for Biden. And I will tell you this. If Trump wins this election, Frank Lutz, who's the pollster, he said his profession, as in pollsters, it's over. I actually believe Trump is burying the news. He's burying them because they keep saying he's going to win, he's going to win, he's going to win. Biden, that is. If they lose this election, I'll be truthful with you. I don't know if journalism will recover.
Let's hope it doesn't. Let's hope it doesn't. And one more time, we apologize for the sound issues. We're trying to work it out as you guys are being very gracious with us tonight and letting us know. And I took off the one sound. But yeah, why should the media? And let me know what you think about the sound right now, guys. Why should the media come back? We don't need this media. This is not a free media. This is not an independent media. It is an extension of the Democrat Party. That's not just a cliche. That's not just an attack. It's the truth. They've been attacking Donald Trump from day one. From day one. Okay? And yeah, so I don't think the media should survive at all. Let's hope that they don't. Let's hope that they don't.
Hold on one sec. We're just trying to figure out something with the mics. How we at, John?
And then let's see. That hopefully works out okay. So, all right. So
how's it sound better?
Does it sound better now?
No? Yes? John? Anything? All right, John's going to our producer's going to take over and kind of trying to work it out.
All right, in the meantime, that's why I'm not yelling so much.
It's all right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so
all right, let's go to what's it called? I think this was a really good article. It came from Michael Warsaw. He's the CEO of EWTN, and he's basically saying that the election presents two completely different views of America. He's basically bucketing what the candidates stand for into these particular views. And let me just share that with you. I think it'll make for a good conversation. The RNC has built itself on the notion that America is a great country with much to offer, and the DNC campaign has adopted the opposite view, namely that America has much to atone for and little to be proud of. The RNC vision is friendly to people of faith, since it embraces a vision that sees religious practice and belief in God as central to the country's private and public life. The DNC's view sees traditional religious beliefs as a major threat to the country and religion itself, especially Christianity, as something that should be subverted and brought into the progressive fold, not something to be celebrated for what it is and what it believes. Mm-hmm. That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Are we better here or no?
Not sure, but let's keep talking.
All right. Also, this is what he goes on to say, Warsaw. Regarding America's founding and the role of the judiciary, the RNC's vision sees the Constitution as well crafted and continues to serve the country effectively, which should be interpreted as written, whereas the DNC demands a complete repudiation of the American system with the Constitution adapted and changed to meet the fads and trends of the moment. The RNC's vision, with the traditional view of our country, holds that all Americans, including those not yet born, have a God-given right to life, the first right listed in the Declaration of Independence. And the DNC's view, on the contrary, sees abortion as something to be celebrated and defended. Its export with taxpayer dollars is an article of faith for them, Joe Pasillo.
That's right.
I mean, basically, at the end of the day, and this is what Warsaw is basically saying, is it's more than just the candidate themselves that we are voting for. That's what's on the ballot. It's basically you're casting your vote this year for a long-term vision of America. I couldn't agree with him more. Right. I think he gets it.
Right, and that's exactly that's why we've heard a million times in the last 50 years, oh, this is the most important election in our lifetimes. This is the most important. Well, this one is. And it's for the reason that what Michael Warsaw is saying. It's what vision do you want? Whether or not Joe Biden wrecks this country inside of 4 years, if he's if he's even around that long, let's say if he's even around for 4 years, if he was to get elected, you're electing, and even on the congressional level, when you vote for a moderate Democrat, they're all going to vote with Nancy Pelosi. They're all going to vote with the party. And they're all going to try to lay the groundwork for a complete Marxist takeover of the United States. Why does anybody doubt this? When you look at the things that they attack, free speech, freedom of religion, okay, free association, freedom of the press, why does anybody doubt that what they want is a Marxist takeover? It's as plain as the nose on your face. And that's right, Michael Warsaw's right. If you want to prevent that, not because Donald Trump's going to do everything inside of 4 years, hopefully as a Republican Congress and Senate, but you are laying the groundwork for a Josh Hawley, let's say, down the road. Somebody who's young, who maybe not as brash as Donald Trump, and get the country back on the right path. If that's the vision, do you want to go down the socialist path, or do you want to straighten America out and go down the right path? And I think that's the choice. I think Michael Warsaw is exactly right. We're voting for a vision. I prefer Donald Trump's Republican Party and his Republican Party and that vision over the AOC squad, Kamala Harris, and that vision. I don't want that vision. They may want it. I don't want it. I don't want it at all.
I'll be truthful with you. I think it's a horrible vision. And frankly, it's not sustainable.
Right.
Because ultimately what sustains a society is family. That is the building block of every society. And they're destroying the family. Family is one man and one woman in marriage. That is sustainable. You cannot build a society on basically some of these ideas that they're basically floating around. It will not last, is all I'm saying. And frankly, that should scare people. The problem is, a lot of people, this is not something that just happened overnight. We've had problems in this country from a cultural perspective for decades. This is the consequence of many, many, many bad decisions. This is going on for 50 years. People, you can't even speak sense to some people. You can't speak sense to them. And that's the sad thing. And this is where, I'll be honest with you, speaking from a Catholic man's perspective, maybe God is going to make us fall. I don't know what's going to happen. Donald Trump clearly isn't the Messiah. He's not the answer to all our problems. Frankly, the problems take place in the human heart, and we have to change our mindset as a society if we're going to be sustainable. But maybe we have to go through a period. It happens in countries. You know, what if it's 90 years, 100 years, a dark period in this country? Because that's what will happen. Right. I got news for you. The Democrats, look at the fruit of their legislation. Look at how they govern. Look at the cities that have been under Democratic control for decades. Are they thriving? I mean, this is where I sometimes say to myself, like from the perspective of pulling away from it, trying to look at it objectively. When people see cities like Memphis, cities like St. Louis, cities like Newark, cities like inner city Philadelphia, are they working? Illinois, Chicago. They're fiscally irresponsible. There's crime off the charts. The school systems are run horribly. They have horrible graduation records. After a while, when you're banging your head against the wall, don't you kind of step back and say to yourself, I kind of should try something new? This isn't working. Just speaking objectively. And that's why I think the black vote is important. I've been posting this on our site on Facebook all week. It's the quiet metric. This is the metric that can turn the table because it's the metric they're counting on. They're in their head thinking, we're getting that vote. They may not. And if they don't, that is what turns the election. The African American vote. And the irony is this. They played the race card. And if you ask me, they say Donald Trump fueled a lot of this trouble. You notice, as soon as the rioting was hurting Joe Biden's campaign, it stopped.
Right.
It stopped.
Doesn't that tell you? Doesn't that tell you anything?
I'm not a conspiracy guy, but as Don Corleone would say, I'm a very suspicious man, and I am.
Here you go quoting Don Corleone.
Well, there it is. But I mean, it stopped. So the point of the matter is, wouldn't it be ironic if it was the thing that they tried to use to topple Donald Trump turns out to be the very thing that makes him win? I think it would be interesting, and I think it's possible.
I think it's possible too, and it goes back to the wokeness of the African Americans. All the entire agenda that's been pushed by the left, okay, whether it's LGBT, whether it's abortion, okay, because Kanye's out there, he's on video yelling at his wife, Kim Kardashian, they're telling us to kill our babies, they convinced us to kill our babies, all right? They're starting to get woke to the whole cultural agenda of the left too. Abortion, gay marriage, transgenderism. Black people don't go for this stuff. And by the way, as a group, okay, the vast majority of African Americans they don't like it when the LGBT crowd wants to equate what, let's say, their quote-unquote struggles for civil rights with African Americans' struggles for civil rights. African Americans, they balk at that. They balk at that. They're like, don't compare what we went through to what you want. You because they don't agree with it. Even Democrat African Americans, they don't agree with the whole LGBT agenda. Many of them don't agree with abortion, okay? And that's why a lot of them are leaving. That's why a lot of them are leaving the Democrat Party, because they don't agree with that stuff. Now you take that, you combine that with the fact that they realize now that they've been used for how many decades, that translates into what could really be a disaster on November 3rd, which we could only pray for. A disaster for the Democrats. Talk about prayers. I pray every night on my way home from work. I have a set of prayers that I pray, and one of my prayers is particularly that I pray for the intercession of Saint Benedict, that the Democrats get beaten badly on November 3rd, House, Senate, and presidency. See, they don't want to give up 2 inches. They won't give up anything, nor do we. That's why Amy Coney Barrett, by the way, is going on the Supreme Court tomorrow. Joe told me before the show, Lisa Murkowski is now on board, okay, with voting for Amy Coney Barrett, okay? It's a done deal. You see, don't give them any wiggle room. Same with the election. Hammer them beyond belief every place you can and try your best to get that gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hands. That's one of the biggest things that can happen. If there's a red wave, which, as you said, I think a lot of people were being quiet, just like there were in 2016. I think even more people were being quiet in this election than in 2016, but they're going to go and vote. Well, my ballot's filled out. Knows my wife and I did it today. Tomorrow, when I'm on my way over here, because Joe and I have an interview to do it at noon tomorrow, I'm going to be dropping my ballot in the drop box, and I'm going to make sure I vote. And the thing is, if you get a down ticket, if Donald Trump has what they call them, coattails. In other words, if everybody's just going Trump and then their congressmen and their senators, okay, you may very well have Nancy Pelosi losing that gavel. That would be, alongside a Trump victory, that would be a real, true win.
See, political power is not given away, it's taken. Basically, what I'm kind of hoping the outcome of this basic presidential, election is this: they lose the House, they maintain the Senate, and we win the presidency. These ideas are dangerous ideas. Frankly, if you ask me, the change that they're looking to bring, it's not an American idea. Change is obviously a human idea. They don't believe in the country. These people don't believe in America.
Well, they don't like America.
Their vision is not an American vision. America is not a socialist country. It never was. People escaped and do continue to escape socialist countries to come here. That's just one of many things that they're trying to shove down our throat. I don't own a gun, but people like guns in America. It's part of the fabric of the nation. They want to take that away, and they will. What they're going to do is they're not going to be able to change the Constitution. They're going to tax people that have guns. They're already talking about taxing people $200 per gun.
Right.
Changing the laws, basically outlawing certain types of guns through legislation. What they're going to do is they're going to institutionalize the fraud that they're trying to commit. They're going to put it into law. That's why they have to be crushed politically, not physically. Politically, their ideas must be crushed. And when they are crushed, and if they are crushed, and that is my hope, what will happen is their own will turn against them. There will be Democrats that will talk to the people like the AOCs, to the the Tlaibs, and they will basically say, listen, your ideas don't resonate with this country. I'm sorry, we have to change direction. And that's what I'm hoping happens with this particular election. Barack Obama, and to this day, he ushered in this seed into this country. It must be crushed. Not him, his ideas. And the country must basically come to the middle again.
But here's the thing, though. You're talking about a group of people. See, Joe just made a very good point. Scalia made this point, too, by the way. Well, I don't battle against people. I'm paraphrasing. I fight against ideas, not against people. We feel the same way, okay? They do not feel that way. And again, I'm not accusing them of anything that you can't see with your own eyes over the last 6 months, and all the riots and hitting cops over the head with baseball bats and shooting at them and breaking things and looting and everything else. They're not interested in defeating you in the free marketplace of ideas. They will take your life. They have no problem doing that. Why? Because they're Marxists. That's what they are. What do Marxists, what is the hallmark of a Marxist? They're willing to take anybody's life at any time under any circumstance. They don't care. That's what you're dealing with here. That's why, as much as this is a political and a culture war, this is also a spiritual battle. These are people who have embraced the worst evil. Marxism is one of the worst evils ever to creep upon the world stage, okay, in all of human history. And the people have shown that. That's not just some blanket, some blind statement. The communists and Marxists, they have shown their propensity to kill other people in much, much larger numbers than any other group in history. Okay, they're murderers. Okay, their father is the father of lies and the murderer from the beginning. Okay, but that's what they do. They're not interested in what Joe said. What Joe said implies civility, a little decorum. Okay, a little back and forth, a little compromise. These people are not interested in compromise. They're interested in power. They want power now, and if you stand in their way, they will cut your throat. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line.
Here's some. We wanted to also illustrate some examples of Biden's history. He's like a lot of times Biden will say that Trump is radically charged. His conduct doesn't behoove the person of a president. He's not presidential. You hear that constantly. I want to give you some examples of Biden's radically charged behavior. Some of the comments that he has made. You may not have heard them, but I want to share a few with you. Biden opposed busing in the late 1970s, and he expressed fears that it would lead to a racial jungle. His words, not mine. Biden voted to protect tax-exempt status of private segregated schools. He voted for this. Biden told black radio host Charlemagne the God, every time I say that, it makes me twitch, the God. But anyway, let me not digress.
How about you just say God, Charlemagne the God in his own mind?
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or for Trump, he's talking to Charlemagne, who is an African American, then you ain't black. Biden Biden told Asian and Latino Coalition, a coalition in Des Moines, Iowa, that poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as
white kids.
Do you imagine if Donald Trump said
that? Any Republican said
that?
Do
you imagine, let's not even put that you said that at work in the corporate...
Somebody said that, somebody called us racist. It's like we never said anything that's even on the same planet as that. Being critical of Black Lives Matter, I guess, for a
lot of people who are critical of Black Lives Matter, and some of them are black.
Right, but a lot of people would say if you're critical of Black Lives Matter, that makes you a racist. Okay, fine, I'll argue with that. But this is blatant racism. In other words, this is Biden. Poor kids are just as bright as white kids. How do you get away with that?
If you say that, how is the media saying you're fired?
You're fired.
They'd be like, what did you just say?
If you said something that was a fraction as bad as that, you're out the door. Okay, they're not going to put up with that. But Biden, why? Because we said this a few minutes ago talking about the media. And should the media come back in this country? No, not this media. Not this current media, not CNN and MSNBC, and their stranglehold on the American media needs to be broken. One of the best ways it was, and this is another conversation not for today, one of the best ways to combat them is what we're doing here. Social media, okay? Where, listen, if I say something or Joe says something, you could fact check us. In other words, you could say if we say something that you think we're lying about, you could fact check us. That's why the good Lord invented the internet, okay? It's a purely free marketplace of ideas. So now when you get social media and the rise of social media where many people get their news and information from, okay? Some of it's nonsense, but much of it is not. And much of it is very valuable, okay? What happens? Then the mainstream media and the government, they get in bed with Silicon Valley. Now you're going to have hearings, hopefully this week, where Josh Hawley and others are going to they're going to call Zuckerberg and who's the other guy, the mutant, Jack Dorsey, and call them in front of the Senate and question them. So you really have so many forces against you. Can you imagine if we had a free press in this country? Donald Trump would probably win the Electoral College he probably would win New Jersey. Even if if you could imagine that, he probably would win a state like New Jersey if the media was actually fair. If they covered both Donald Trump and Joe Biden fairly, but they don't.
Well, he goes on. He's not done. While delivering remarks before a black audience in Delaware, Biden launched into a meandering story about a gang leader and claimed that he learned about roaches while working at a community pool in a black neighborhood. In 2008, Biden referred to then-President Barack Obama, get this one, as the first sort of mainstream African-American who was articulate, bright, and clean.
Can you imagine, again, saying something like that?
He's not done. In 2006, Biden told CNN, you can't go to a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. And lastly, Biden falsely claimed he marched in the civil rights movement. I actually think he's schizophrenic. Dude, he lies. This guy will say things that, it's beyond, like the fracking. I marched in the civil rights. I mean, this is like stuff where you're just like, Joe, you are lying.
He's one of those guys that must truly believe. Okay. By the way, Basil made a point in the comment box. Okay, listen, Basil. All right. He says, as the volume in your voice goes up, the audio gets worse. Your producer probably did that to keep Joe P. calm. That's okay. I'm backing up from the microphone, and I am keeping calm tonight. Actually, this is good practice for me. I think the good Lord is disciplining me not to get so angry and to keep more of an. I can make my points without getting angry. Don't worry, I'm not going to lose my anger. But Joe Biden must be one of those guys that truly believes that he, in his entire career, that the media will always protect him. It can be it could be the only explanation. Either that, or like Joe said, he's truly schizophrenic. And if he's not schizophrenic, he really thinks the media will protect him. And even if he fibs a little bit, like graduating the top of his class, okay, even if he fibs a little bit, it won't be that big a deal because the media will cover up. Well, you know what? His lies go back decades, and they're not just fibs, okay? They're big. He marched in the civil rights. Next they'll say he got cracked over the head. He was sitting right next to John Lewis when John Lewis got cracked over the head on the bridge down there in Alabama. Come on, man. I'm going to borrow Biden.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
It's actually sad. And you know what's sad is he'll get 55 million plus votes. You see, this is, as Michael Warsaw basically said, it's more than just candidates we're voting for. It's a view of the nation. If you ask me, only a sick culture would basically, I think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, if you ask me, objectively speaking, this is one of the worst tickets I have ever seen. It's one of the worst tickets I have ever seen. Do you know that Donald Trump is going to be in like a billion places between now and November 3rd? Joe Biden is home. He's home. And as we speak, he's in Delaware.
But remember something. Why does he do that? It's for the reason I just said. His people really think the media will carry him. They'll carry the day over the, 10 days from now? Is it maybe less than that? That's immediate.
Yeah, it's 9 days.
How could you compare a guy who basically has seen in the last month, I think it's in the last month, he's given rallies, public appearances, where he's had about 90 people in total in the audience when you count up all these public appearances when he's not hiding in the basement or putting a lid on the day, okay? Trump has gone now in front of 300,000 people. The only thing that Biden's strategists and handlers can even be thinking is, well, the media, if we win this thing, it'll be the media that carries the day. We got to keep this guy under wraps and just get him out there sparingly. It's the only thing I could think of. Because why wouldn't you have him out there and saying, look, Joe, if you have to die on the campaign trail to win this election, if you have to die, Trump's willing to die. He's going everywhere.
Dude, he's going tomorrow in Pennsylvania. He has 3 rallies in the state of Pennsylvania. That's like a 16-hour day.
That's why he's going to win Pennsylvania. That's why he's going to win the election. And when they all sit back at the end and try to figure out how they're going to steal this election from Donald Trump, okay, they're going to have to say to themselves, hey man, we kept the guy in the basement. Why do you think we lost? And the funny thing is, even with him in the basement, the election shouldn't even be as close as it is right now. Again, the media
says something about the country.
It says something about the country, but you can't blame all people, Joe. I know what you're saying, but you can't blame all people when they're not getting the information in a fair and objective way. When Joe Biden is not being treated the same way Donald Trump is. Okay, so you can't blame people if they don't have the information.
Yeah, but people, it's also, I'll be true with you, their platform is just horrible.
But Joe, that's my point. It's like I think it was Maribel. Maribel, I hope you're still with us. She was in the comment box. All right, her last name is Perez. Okay, obviously Maribel is Hispanic. But Maribel said vote pro-life. All right. God bless you, Maribel. That's what Joe and I say. Vote pro-life. Okay, that's our primary reason for voting for Donald Trump. But use that as an example. That's a perfect example, as a matter of fact. There's many Hispanics in the urban areas. We know that, okay? They're being lied to. In other words, they're not being told the whole truth about the left-wing agenda in the Democrat Party. They're being spoon-fed. In other words, the same way African Americans have been for the last 60, 70 years. They're being spoon-fed what they want them to hear. If you told every Hispanic in this country exactly what the Democrat platform is in regards to just abortion, leaving aside transgenderism and all that, just abortion, okay, Hispanics will start voting for the pro-life party like that. Like that. Why don't they? Because they're not getting the information that they're supposed to be getting. That's it. So I know what you're saying. It's a shame that the race is this close, and there's 40% of this country that's going to vote Democrat no matter what. No matter what. But that balance of many of those people, they're not getting all the information. Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about Keith Olbermann. He's made some serious, dangerous statements lately. They're disturbing.
This guy's disgusting.
And this is just in case you haven't really. Keith Olbermann was on SportsCenter. I actually think he was fired from SportsCenter, ESPN.
I would hope so.
Now I think he's an independent guy.
Hey, listen, they fired Rush Limbaugh years ago when Rush Limbaugh was doing the Sunday Night Countdown with Chris Berman, okay, and Rush Limbaugh didn't say anything bad, anything racist, and they blew it out of proportion. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Keith Olbermann, for the stuff that he says, is infinitely worse than anything that Rush Limbaugh ever said. And Rush Limbaugh didn't say anything bad. This guy is, I call him a bomb thrower. He's keep this in your head before Joe tells you about this, okay? Keith Olbermann is the embodiment of that Marxist who we said earlier will cut your throat if he had the opportunity to do it. If he thinks that he can get his vision for America and the world across, if he can gain the political power to do it, and he's got to cut your throat to do it, just listen to his words. Last week, now Joe's going to tell you what he said this week. Last week, let me refresh you. Is that okay?
I'm going to read it.
Joe's going to refresh you what he said last week, then what he's saying this week, okay? And you think in your mind, come up with your own conclusion. Would this guy put a bullet in my head if it meant political power for him and people like him? I think you'll come up with the conclusion that the answer is yes.
Basically, during an unhinged rant about President Trump and his response to the coronavirus, Oberman said that the president should be given the death penalty for each of the 220,000 Americans who have died from the virus. This is the same Oberman who called Trump supporters maggots, who should all be prosecuted. And this was his complete comment last week. If you haven't heard it, you should Google it. And you can listen to it. I've listened to it. This is what he said. He said, "So, let us brace ourselves. The task is twofold. The terrorist Trump must be defeated. He must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box. He and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Sean Hannitys and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giulianis and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society while we try to rebuild it. And to rebuild the world, Trump is nearly destroyed by turning it over to the virus."
Now stop right there. This is what they do. See, when he says removed, what does he mean by removed? How does that,
like gulags, or
you just hit the net, concentration camps, gulags, same thing. We need to remove you because you don't think like us. Now, we're not going to kill you now. We're going to send you to a place where you're going to learn anew what our revolution is all about. And then you could come back into the fold now that you'll be adapting yourself to the correct point of view, to the correct worldview. That's what he's saying. And if that indoctrination doesn't work, now Catholic Church has two examples amongst many others in the 20th centuries where that was tried, okay, and those people said basically, I'm going to my death. Saint Edith Stein, okay, and Saint Maximilian Kolbe. Okay, now again, there's others, okay, but those are two glaring examples.
That was the Germans, they were died in concentration.
Germans, National Socialist German Workers' Party, Communist, they're all
He's on a roll.
But they were all. Father Carapi used to say it all the time. He says socialism, communism, fascism all has its inception in the same place, the same pit of hell. So my point is that that's what they'll try to do. If you stand up, they'll send you to that concentration camp or that gulag, and you'll die there. Okay, those who they let out of the concentration camp are those who now they will have considered to have been re-educated. Go watch The Killing Fields. You'll see it's one of the most chilling,
horrible.
It's one of the most chilling scenes in that movie. Great picture, by the way. One of the most chilling scenes, and we've said it before on the show, where at one of the re-education camps, the little kids go up to the chalkboard where there's stick figures of obviously a man and a woman, okay, and the little kid is handed the crayon or the chalk, and he goes up. And the woman's hand, the stick figure, is holding that of what is obviously a stick figure of a child. And the little kid, the good communist hands the little kid the crayon, and he crosses out the adults. See, that's exactly what re-education camps are. That's just an example. It's a very chilling scene, okay? Because that's what they try to do. Why do you think there's an attack on the family in the last 50 years, which we could go on and on and on about? Why do you think there's an attack on fatherhood? It's generally through fathers that discipline and all those values. I mean, I'm not taking, and don't take this out of context. Mothers bring all sorts of values to parenting and to the family also, but through let's say a strong father figure. Why do they have to destroy the father figure? Because then what you get is a bunch of little kids like that in the killing fields. You get a bunch of little kids who basically you've convinced, in other words, to destroy the family, X out the mother and father. Then what are you left with? You're left with an individual that has nothing in between themselves and the raw power of the state. And that is what these leftists and these statists and these globalists want. Those re-education camps that Keith Olbermann is calling for, when he says get rid of them,
remove from our society. Those are his words.
Right.
These are not my words. You could Google it. Remove from our society. What do you mean by that, Keith? Do you mean kill people? Do you mean imprison people, as Joe said, who don't think like you?
Well, didn't he say prosecute people?
He said prosecute and convicted and removed from our society. That is a chilling statement to make publicly. If you ask me, he should be brought in by the FBI. What do you mean by that, Keith?
Right.
What do you mean by that? Even Mitt Romney called him out, and he's not exactly a Trump supporter. He basically said that when he called Trump a terrorist, he said that this is the example of hate-filled commentary that is unbefitting our nation. You see, this is what's going on in these circles. And this is why, if you ask me, if Biden wins, it's a dangerous, dangerous administration. These people mean business. Kamala Harris has also said, on record, she says, we will take names. Now, what do you mean by that, Ms. Harris? Do you mean that you're going to go after people like Greg Gutfeld, like Tucker Carlson, like Laura Ingraham? Is that what you mean? Right. Are you going to go after basically Trump supporters in the political realm? What do you mean by that? You're going to take names. I want to know. This is not if you ask me, again, and I am a suspicious man, all the rioting stopped when it started to hurt Joe Biden. It all stopped. There's been a lot of footage of trucks. I can remember one riot, they had signs. A U-Haul truck came out and people went into it.
They got resupplied.
I mean, this stuff, I'll never forget what they did to this country this year because of the election year. I will never forget what the Democrats, as long as I live, what they did to this country. They hurt communities, people died, businesses destroyed, all in the name of power. And don't tell me you did not leverage this virus for political gain.
Right.
Don't tell me you did not leverage the horrendous murder of George Floyd. Don't tell me you didn't. It's disgraceful. And many of the people that were hurt are poor, and many of them are black. And they will suffer for decades because of what happened in their communities. Minneapolis, burnt to the ground. You think that's going to come back anytime soon? It's going to be decades before that city gets back on its feet.
Right.
And that's just one city. Disgraceful. New York City, I was there 2 weeks ago. It's a ghost town.
I'm there every day.
New York it's a shadow of what it was.
And it ain't coming back anytime soon.
It's a disgrace.
That's right. It's a disgrace. And it's done deliberately. And the other thing, real quick, before we move on, remember one of the other things that the left likes. The left needs production, okay? Because obviously they need to, if they're enslaving us all, they need to feed us, or we have to eat, and they have to give us some sort of a semblance that we have some kind of freedom. It's not that they don't want to destroy all businesses. They just get in bed with businesses. But what's the best way to do that? Get in bed with big businesses that control big industries. That's why they're in bed with Silicon Valley. Okay, what's one of the consequences of, as Joe was saying, their corona lockdowns and everything? They've destroyed small businesses. One of the things they lament publicly is Donald Trump's destroyed all these small businesses. No, you did. You did, and you did it deliberately. Donald Trump wanted to help all those small businesses. You crushed them, the gym owner, the diner, the restaurant owner. You crushed them all. Why? They don't like small businesses. You know what small business people tend to be? Not leftists. I'm not going to even say conservative, but they're not leftists. They're not going to go, when you say, well, we're going to tax you 50%, they're going to go like this. Yeah, okay. No, they're not leftists. Small business people in America are a threat to the left. They're a threat. So what did they use? One of the things they used this coronavirus for was to destroy small businesses. They did a wonderful job. If that was I think that was their aim, that was their goal, and they did a terrific job. They destroyed hundreds of thousands of small businesses, and it was by design.
Our last story of the night is Don Lemon on CNN. He made some statements regarding...
That's a bond to you, pal.
Fair enough. Paying taxes. This is what he had to say. I'm going to read this to you. He said, as Americans and as people, especially if you believe in the Christian values that you espouse, you're supposed to do unto others and help others. So to do that as much as I can, and I don't like it, but I don't mind it in a way because I'm blessed and fortunate enough to be in a position to make this amount of money where I have the privilege. I have the privilege to be able to do it. No one likes to pay a lot of taxes, but we do it because we can. And not everyone can. So maybe you buy one less dune buggy. Maybe you buy you buy one less fancy car. Maybe you buy one less boat. Maybe you buy one less yacht. Maybe you buy one less apartment or one less mansion. How much money do you really need? That's all I have to say. First of all, who buys dune buggies and mansions and boats and yachts? What are you talking about? You're delusional. That's number one. Number two, I don't give to charity, and in my head, no, I do give to charity, but I don't basically, in my mind, think paying taxes is doing that. I don't trust, by the way, what I give to the government. They do stupid things with our money, by the way. The money that you give to the poor should be outside of your taxes. That's what the Catholic Church believes. You give money hand to hand. And if you form a society properly, people will do that because they'll see God in their neighbor. That was in the gospel today at Mass. Love God above all things, love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two greatest commandments. That was the Mass that was read today in Mass. What do? When you see somebody who's in need, you should see Christ in them. So you should help them. That has nothing to do with your taxes. And frankly, I'll say it again, I don't trust the government.
Right.
And I don't want to pay them a ton of taxes.
And well, that's why we have to, like as Christians, we have to resist them when they start pulling that, well, you don't care about people. They've been pulling this for decades. Conservatives don't care about people because we don't want to give our money and our power to the government. We will do what we do charitably, okay, in our communities to help those people who are in need, okay, because that's what Christians are supposed to do. But that has nothing, as Joe said, with what I agree to give you as far as taxes, all right? Now that relationship has to change. This idea what the government takes or what the government gives you, that whole mentality, we need to raise our consciousness to start saying in this country and change our language to say, no, you'll take what we allow you, what we will give you. You don't take anything from us. We allow you a certain amount of our income in the form of proper taxation, not confiscatory taxation. That's number one. We have to change the language. Number two, when they start saying you don't care about people, no, I don't care about bureaucrats. And I don't care about left-wing politicians who just want to take my money to spend it on things that are going to give them more political power. I don't want to do it. And on abortion, that's one of the big ones that comes to mind. I don't want to give you my money. That's got nothing to do with Christianity. What you do privately, remember something, what Jesus said. He said, when you give, don't let the left hand know what the right hand's doing, okay? Give quietly. All right, God will see what you do. That's the proper Christian attitude. I don't turn around and say, well, I'm willing to give the government 40% of my income because I'm a Christian. No, God's not going to judge you favorably for that because you're willing to give your money to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. In other words, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. That makes you a good Christian? You really think you really in your heart think that they're feeding the poor? Joe Biden does, by the way. He said that back in 2012 when Mitt Romney's tax returns came out and it showed that Romney gives a ton of money. Now, I don't like Mitt Romney, but he gives a ton of money to charity. A ton of money. Millions and millions of dollars. This is after taxes, okay? And it showed that Biden gave like 0.03% of his income to charity. And the response from his people or him, I forgot who it came from, was, well, Joe believes in helping people, through government programs. So he agrees with higher taxation. So Joe gives in that way. Well, that's not any way to give. That's a measure of my morale. The level of my care for the poor is measured by how much money I want to give the government. And Don Lemon is going to try to judge me because I say, what's our favorite line from Rocky? Screw you, creepo. I'm not giving you my money. You just waste it on things that I don't want you to spend it on. Okay, wars come to mind. Donald Trump's against getting us into endless wars. There's all the waste. Don't even think about equating the two. What I do for the poor is between me, my wife, and God. Okay, and it's got nothing to do with you and your stupid leftists in our federal government.
But also think about this. All the programs that they want to institute, since we're on the subject of taxes, they want to pay free community college. They want to give $15,000 for all first-time mortgage people buying a house, first mortgage, which would equate, by the way, to 30 million. There's 2 million first-time home buyers every year. That's $30 million.
30 billion.
I'm sorry, billion dollars.
Billion with a B.
Where do you think that money's coming from? The people who just make over $400,000? That's the biggest lie he's told yet. Yet it doesn't register with Americans. This is the type of stuff, because I live in New Jersey. I know the politics of New Jersey, and I see it. They bitched about Chris Christie, and they basically voted in Murphy, who's an iteration of Corazine. Same guy, just comes from a different state. Corazine was a carpetbagger, Goldman Sachs executive from Illinois. Murphy's a carpetbagger from Massachusetts who's a Goldman Sachs executive too. Same guy selling the same crap, and they do it again. And then they complain. Our taxes are too high. Well, you voted for this fool.
Right. Why would you?
And they're going to do the same thing.
And here's the other thing, too. When you're for lower taxes, then they want to bring that, because this is something we wanted to talk about. Then they want to bring race into it. You don't want to pay taxes because you don't want us to give money to poor black people. They've said that. Remember throwing grandma off a train, and when Ronald Reagan criticized welfare queens? Listen, get your head out of your butt. If you don't think back in the 80s, and even today, there's still welfare queens. They still exist. There's women who basically live on welfare. All right? Many of them are white, by the way. Most of them are white. They're not all black. But it's like, so you want me to pay all this money, you want to waste it on things like welfare, you try to inject race into it by saying that if I'm not willing to pay that money to the government and I want to keep more of my money, that makes me a racist. Well, we mentioned earlier in the conversation, it was one of the things we wanted to talk about, 50 Cent, he came out and said, you might as well call me 20 Cent if Biden gets elected. Now here's a rich black guy, Don Lemon. Is he selfish? Is Keith Olbermann going to call him a racist? Okay, I'm curious, Joe Resinello. And by the way, 50 Cent is not really a rapper anymore. He's a businessman. He got involved with that vitamin water, and he made a lot of money with that. He's not really like a guy who's out there making records. Okay, he's a businessman. He sees business opportunities. He uses his name. I would too. He uses his name. He got involved with, let's say, a few different things. He's made a ton of money. So Joe Biden wants to turn him into 20 Cent, and he's got something to say about it. I'm not voting for that. Now, is he going to be a racist? Are they going to call him selfish? And other, let's say, black entrepreneurs like him, are they going to call him selfish?
And who knows what he does with his money?
That is just another thing.
You don't know what people do with their money. To be honest, I didn't know that Mitt Romney gave all that money.
Give a ton of money to
So that's my point. You don't know, and frankly, like I said, if you have a well-formed society, people will give money to the poor. Having a society that's moral, they will do that. But I am not giving it to the government because I don't trust the government, even under whatever president, Donald Trump, when it comes to money. I don't need to give you money for you could have social programs. Do you know that poverty in the black community was higher under Barack Obama than it is under Donald Trump? All his programs, did they work? No, they didn't.
No,
sorry guys, they didn't work.
Those programs, that's all they're designed to do is to grease the wheels of the black liberal establishment in the inner cities. You think that the black liberal establishment really cares about those young kids and whether or not they get an education? They're corrupt politicians.
They're stealing left and right, and I see that in Newark, New Jersey.
Right, it's been happening in Newark for years. So stop thinking that we're all so naive. All right, the black liberal establishment does just as much to keep down African Americans in this country as the white liberal establishment. They're all in bed together. And why? Like Joe just said, because Barack Obama said, "Well, I'm going to take your money, Joe the plumber. Got to take your money, we've got to spread it around." I think that'd be a good idea. We spread it around. Well, who are you spreading it to? You spread it to your political cronies, all right? And people like Maxine Waters, okay, who doesn't live in her district in South Central, who lives in a $4 million house. Where do you think your tax money's going? Don Lemon? In other words, when I say I'm not going to pay any money to put Maxine Waters in a $4 million house, and I don't want to spend any of my tax money going to grease the skids of the black liberal establishment in the inner cities that are holding black people down. I don't want to do it, okay? And if you think that makes me selfish, I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. I will tell you this, tell us to our face. Instead of hiding behind a camera, I tell you to your face that you're absolutely wrong. You are absolutely wrong. Don't call people selfish because they don't want to give those leaders that you support money. I don't want to give them my money. I don't want to give them. I want to give the money, the government, the barest amount of money that I need to for them to do the barest amount of things that they need to do. Other than that, I don't want them to do anything. I want the states to do some of these things, not the federal government. It's called federalism. The Catholic Church would call it subsidiarity. Okay, take care of problems on a local level, not on a federal level. Okay, if Texas is doing good, leave Texas alone. If New York is doing terrible, New York's got to straighten itself out. Okay, but it's got to be dealt with on a state and local level. So we don't want to give any more of our money to the federal government. It's bloated. They borrowed $28 trillion. Is that what the debt is now?
Oh, I don't even want
28. So even our taxes are not enough to satiate their fiending to spend money and just spend money, like Joe said. Barack Obama's spreading money around for all those programs that don't do anything. So seriously.
You know, I'll tell you the truth. If Biden wins, I don't want to hear it when gasoline goes up at least $1 a gallon. I don't want to hear it when you are taxed maybe 15% more, and you will be. Don't think for a minute that they're just going to tax people who make over $400,000 a year. I don't want to hear it, because that's what's going to happen. The middle class will get destroyed.
And by the way, it's a lie that Joe Biden is not going to raise taxes on people making less than $400,000 a year. If you look at his proposal, I'm going to look at the details. I'll get back to you next week. The bottom line is, yes, you will be paying more in taxes if you make less than $400,000 a year.
There's no doubt about
in
it.
a different form. If you don't mind, let's end this conversation with just a quick historical example of what the left does when they sell all you middle class people out there a tax increase on rich people. When the personal income tax was instituted in this country, it was sold as a tax on the richest Americans to pay for the war effort. That was World War I. That was during the Wilson administration, okay? And by the time the New Deal came around, everybody was paying taxes. It's very simple. So a progression of about 15 to 18 years. It went from one of the richest people in America, that's the only people we're going to tax, and then 15, 18 years later, everybody's paying taxes. Okay? Now you tell me, they lied then, they're always lying. They always run out of rich people's money, and then the level will always have to come down to where they get to you. You're making $100,000 a year, but this poor guy over here, he doesn't have anything. We need to take more of your money. No, I don't want to give you more of my money. Well, you're being very selfish and you're being racist, so you're just going to have to. You're going to have to give us more of your money.
Or
and
they
that's what
hide
they do.
taxes and other things, and this is what they do in New Jersey. They tax gasoline. They raise the tolls on the parkway.
The gas
That's a tax.
Gas tax.
All of it's a tax. They they could hide things, and they do hide things. They're going to tax people with guns. They're going to get revenue from that. That's how they're going to control the gun population in America. They can't get rid of the amendment, so they'll tax you.
Right.
They could tax you because you drive a big vehicle. Your registration fees can go up. There's a million things they could do with that, and they don't call it a tax.
But it is
It's a tax.
Comes out of your pocket and goes into their pocket. That's tax.
It's just not line itemed on the budget as a tax.
Why is it, real quick, why is it that we have to pay fees to federal to state agencies? You already tax us. Why do everything should be free. For all the taxes we pay in the state of New Jersey, everything should be free. I go to motor vehicles, I don't have to pay for a license. I already paid you in taxes. I pay in sales tax, income tax. I'm not paying you. But I had to go, all right? I have business at the township where my mother lives. I had to get an affidavit for her from the town. I had to give them a check for $60. Why am I giving you a check for $60? Where my mother lives, they're charging an 81-year-old woman $11,000 a year in property taxes. Why am I paying $60? So is that, again, you say that's not a tax. They'll say that's not a tax. But we say
it's a tax.
It's a tax because I had to actually give them $60 in order to get something from them. And they work for the city, but they already make their money through taxation. So you understand, it's the whole apparatus. The left always talks about burning things down. We need to burn down their tax structure in this country. totally annihilate it, totally change it to a very simple form of taxation in this country that we all could live with. Because this tax system that we have now, on the state, local, and federal level, completely unsustainable.
And again,
can't do it anymore.
Look at the fruit of these democratic cities and democratic states. They're bankrupt. They're fiscally irresponsible. I'm sorry. They are fiscally irresponsible. You tell something by the fruit it bears. And then again, this is not speaking as a Republican. Step away from it and look at Illinois. Look at New York. Look at Massachusetts. Look at Connecticut. Look at New Jersey. Look at California. They're not run well. They don't know how to run systems and governments. If you ask me, it's malfeasance. New York chased away Amazon. 250,000 jobs, which were going to go to Long Island City, thanks to AOC. Even Cuomo, Governor Cuomo, he called it governmental malfeasance. That could arguably been one of the stupidest things I have ever seen from a government's perspective in my life.
And Bezos is one of their friends. You know what I mean? Bezos is like he's a corporate bigwig, oligarch that the left loves, and they love him.
Even de Blasio spoke out against that maneuver, against AOC. That was dumb. They don't know how to run governments. I'm sorry. The fruit, your school systems stink, your budgets are horrible, and crime is rampant. Sorry.
That's right. That's it.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, that's a perfect place to end the conversation. They don't know how to run governments. They don't know how to run most things. They don't even know many times how to run their own lives, okay? And they want to make sure that they can run yours. So that's why, and we got one more Frontline with Joe and Joe before the election. We'll have, listen, all you great people out there, you're wonderful, beautiful people, and we love you. Please bear with us. We'll fix the sound issue. Next week, it'll be crystal clear. We promise, okay? But thank you for sticking with us tonight, okay? And we're gonna have a great show for you before the election, and we're gonna continue to pray for an outcome to the election that's going to be good for America. I think you know which way Joe and I believe the election should go. That would be good for America. We're voting for Donald Trump. I voted today. I went right down the ticket. If you're in New Jersey, take the time to vote, even if it's a symbolic vote. Vote against Cory Booker. Just Rick Mehta is running for Senate in New Jersey. Just vote for Rick Mehta. Please vote against Cory Booker, just to say you did. I did it just to say I did. I don't think Rick Mehta is going to win. I haven't looked at the polls, but just go out and vote against Cory Booker. That would be really, really good. And if you're in Bergen County, vote against Bill Pascrell. And by the way, that's an Indian, Rick Mehta, running against Cory Booker, and I believe you pronounce his name Prempa. He's running in southern Bergen County against Bill Pascrell, and Billy is a black guy, an African American from Patterson. Okay.
Yeah, my neighbor has a sign on his lawn for him.
So if you're Italian and you're conservative, don't vote for the Italian Pascrell. Go vote for the black guy because he's on board with what you believe. All right. So Billy Prempa is on your side, and that's the guy we have to vote for. And again, you know, that's our opinion. All right, that's who we're voting for. And in the meantime, we want to thank you once again for joining us at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. We were way into the breach here tonight, talking about a lot of things that are of interest to you. Please like and follow and share our page on Facebook. On YouTube, please subscribe and hit the little bell. Please, by all means, check out the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. Joe and I are on there 3 hours every Monday. It's a great channel, and they're doing a 30-day free trial so that you can check out everything they're about. We think you'll love it. Mike Church runs a great station. We think you'll love it. So it's crusadechannel.com, and you could sign up for a free 30-day trial subscription. Yeah, we think you'll love it. So in the meantime, remember that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. So we will see you next week.
Thank you.